Good morning.
Hello, Orna here again from ornaonline.com. Today I just want to talk really quickly about the realities of scheduling in your exercise regime so that it becomes part of your daily routine, and so that then as you grow in confidence and in what you want to do, that you're not afraid to add on and you're aware of how much time it takes. Now, exercising or taking up any form of exercise is obviously always going to be a little bit time consuming, but it's not time consuming in a bad way. It's time consuming in a good way, in a way that makes you feel that you've actually had a great day no matter what amount of exercise that you do. So when I first started taking up running, I decided to myself that I'd start with doing, say, 20 minutes running. And that 20 minutes running quickly turned into 30 minutes when I realized that I needed a 5-minute warm up and a 5-minute cool down period. So that became the 30 minutes. And then when I came home from my 30 minutes running, I needed a shower. And so that was an extra 15 minutes. And soon it became apparent to me that the more exercise I get, the longer I actually spend physically training, the more I need to devote time specifically just towards my training. So this has become part of, not a problem to me, but it's become part and parcel of the way I'm thinking these days, in particular since I've begun training for my triathlon. At this point, on a daily basis, I'm putting aside at least 2 hours every day so that I can train. Regardless of whether I train for 2 hours or not, I know that I need at least that slot. And if I happen to be taking a day off, then that's a free slot that I have for 2 hours. But on the days that I'm training, that's the minimum that I'm going to need. And I've worked up to this slot now at this stage over a 2-year period. So it's taken me quite a while to get from the half an hour, 45-minute period slot up to the 2-hour slot, which is not too bad in all fairness. And that's giving myself plenty of time to do a few minutes extra. Say if I do go for an hour cycle, and then I've got an extra 10 or 15 minutes to have a slight bit of a break, have some juice, do a bit of stretching. I like to do an extra 10-minute session of sit-ups. I'm going to do a video on that later on and talk about an app that I use for that. But it also gives me time then to rehydrate and to stop and to stretch and to do everything else that I need, while including in that 2 hours I also have my shower. So, but I've noticed that some people, when they're talking about training and when they're talking about how much time it needs and how much effort it means that they're going to have to take out of their life, they're kind of unwilling to give up on some small things. So for me, when I decided to start training, yes, there was something that had to be given up on. And for me, it was just TV. It was just one of those things, you sit down at the end of the day and you watch 3 or 4 hours worth of television. So instead of watching 3 or 4 hours worth of television, instead that became 3.5 hours worth of television at the very beginning. And soon I didn't notice what I wasn't watching, because I wasn't missing it in the least. And I was feeling so good from doing my exercises that it just seemed to work out better. So you have to be prepared that there's that little bit of a sacrifice. There's always the good and the bad. As Sir Isaac Newton said, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So obviously, if I'm taking on if I'm taking on the role of doing extra training, then there's something has to give. So that's what I'm taking on, and something has to give. And for me, it was the television slots at the end of the day, and everything else kind of rearranged itself around it. But it's one of those things that you need to be prepared in your head to think about, and to figure in the times that you need, and to figure out what you're prepared to give up. What do you think is in your life now that you don't really need, or that you really don't want to continue on with, or that you wouldn't miss if it was gone? As I said, for me it was the television. I'm not sure about everyone else. I know sometimes, especially in the winter, it's obviously easier to give up the television than it would be in the summer, because a lot of us would be out. But it's something to mull over in the back of your head, and to think about long term, that if you really gave up that one soap or that one TV show, would you miss it in the long term? And what's it giving you at the end of the day, except you're following on somebody else's life. And how interesting is it really? So again, it's just something to mull over, because the way that you feel after 6 months, after 12 months, after 24 months of doing training, you wouldn't even notice that you've given up anything, because the endorphins and every other phenomenal feeling that you get from taking care of yourself, and from feeling good, and from looking good, and from just talking good as well, it's all worth it. It's all worth giving up one small thing to make you feel that bit better. And remember that if I can do anything, you can do anything, we can do anything, we just have to put our minds to it. So I was prepared to give up. I'm sure you're prepared to give up. We just have to work at it. Stick a comment down below the video and tell me what you've given up, so that you can chase that goal. Until next time, bye.
This has been an online production.